10 leading causes of death by PowerPoint. Bad PowerPoints can't really kill people, but they are certainly painful. So painful that people started using the phrase death by PowerPoint to express their sufferings. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 10 leading causes of death by PowerPoint. Bullet points overdose. The number one cause of death by PowerPoint is overdose of text-heavy bullet points that appears slide after slide. It's all text, fonts are large enough to read, but after a couple of slides, people start losing their abilities to read. It also has a known effect of making the audience fall asleep. Known symptoms: drowsiness, gradual loss of interest and attention. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to use more images and less text. Books and documents are for reading, but PowerPoint is not. It's primarily used for presentation. Use talking, you're speaking, to cover most of the verbal information. I mostly use PowerPoint to cover non-verbal visual information. Balanced diet is a healthy diet. Give enough dose of pictures to your audience. It'll keep your audience healthy and fresh. Text overdose. The number 2 cause of death by PowerPoint is the overuse of text to the point that the slide is going to speak for itself. Everything the speaker is saying is literally written on the slide, and the speaker just reads it. People often do that because they can't remember what they need to say. So they use PowerPoint as if it were a script or notes for their speech. Known symptoms: attention deficit to the speaker, poor memory. Audience will be looking at and actually reading the slide instead of paying attention to the speaker. After the presentation, audience will have a hard time remembering what the presentation was about. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to pare the text use down to a few keywords and use text as cues and signals rather than using it as a manuscript. Again, it creates in audience a healthy balance between attending to the speaker and attending to the slide. Slides Deficiency, also known as cramming. The number 3 cause of death by PowerPoint is to put too much information on one slide. And to make it even worse, it's usually done with text. People try to make 2 or more points, sometimes over 10 different points on a single slide. This also leads to the number 2 cause of death by PowerPoint: text overdose on a single slide. Because there are so many different things on one slide, and the slide is visually so crammed, and it just sits there for a few minutes with no obvious cues and signals about what to look at on the slide, audience quickly stops paying attention to the slides. Then what's the point in using PowerPoint? Known symptoms associated with this are impotent PowerPoint. What I can prescribe for this condition is to use more slides. Use 1 slide or more for each point you are making. So if you're talking about 5 different points, use at least 5 slides. Sometimes you might want to go to the extreme of using 1 slide for each word you're saying. Suppose you're quickly mentioning 5 different names of healthy Japanese dishes, one after another. In this case, instead of putting 5 pictures of those dishes on 1 slide, you might want to consider using 5 slides and just put 1 picture on each slide. Doing so helps the audience with attention and keep them engaged and interested. Excess decoration. The number 4 cause of death by PowerPoint is excess use of decorations. Many people make a mistake of spending way too much time over-decorating their slides with fancy backgrounds, fancy fonts, busy colors, unrelated cliparts, company logos, and so on. It creates very, very low signal-to-noise ratio. Anything that doesn't pertain to conveying the message you need to convey is going to be noise. Known symptoms associated with this are attention deficit disorder and confusion. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to pare it down to essentials. The slide without non-essentials is a healthy and sexy slide. Don't cover up the inner beauty of your slide with decorations. Don't cover up the essentials with non-essentials. X the animations and transitions. The number 5 cause of death by PowerPoint is the overuse of animations and transitions. The right kind and amount of animation and transitions are beneficial to your PowerPoint presentation, but excess and improper use of animations and transitions can be very, very distracting. Known symptoms associated with this are nausea, dizziness, dreariness, and sometimes seizures. What I can prescribe for these conditions is do not use animations and transitions unless you have a very good reason. One good reason for using animations can be you are trying to direct audience's attention to the important details on your slide. And one good reason for using slide transitions can be you need some help with making it obvious and clear to transition from one topic to next. Postage stamp thumbnails. The number 6 cause of death by PowerPoint is postage stamp or thumbnail size images people tend to use on PowerPoint slides. So many people use a small image even when the image is the only thing on the slide. The image might be a good one, but if it's used like this, it often fails to show important details effectively. Besides, the background area has nothing to do with what you're talking about. And believe it or not, again, it turns into noise. Known symptoms: dullness, dreariness, eye strain, and fatigue. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to fill the entire slide with image. That will make the slide lively and more meaningful. It gives more impact on the audience, and it will also help the audience see the important details much more easily and clearly. Some people like using quotes in their PowerPoint presentations like this, and this is a really good picture and this is a very good quote, but they're not really working together to convey the message. So to improve it, you might want to do something like this. Here's another example. You can turn something like this into this. Cheesy cliparts and images. The number 7 cause of death by PowerPoint is the use of cheesy cliparts and images. Even though use of images is encouraged, cheesy looking cliparts and pictures are not very effective in getting the points across. Known symptoms associated with this are feeling lame and childish, dullness, confusion, and loss of interest. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to use high quality photos and images. Don't be lazy and spend some time on the web until you find the picture that works for your presentation. If you can't find any on the web, get your camera out and take the exact pictures you want on your own, because sometimes that can be quicker and easier. Bad data presentation. The number 8 cause of death by PowerPoint is ineffective ways data are often presented. Many people just use bullet points and don't even bother to use a table, chart, or graph to show data. Also, even if a table, chart, or graph is used, many people include both relevant and irrelevant data in the table, chart, or graph. It makes the slide really busy and cluttered. Known symptoms associated with this are data processing failure, brain shutdown, confusion, dizziness. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to use a table, chart, and graph that is clean, refined, and polished. So this can become a bar graph, and this can become polished and more refined, and this can become much more polished and refined. And this is the default output from the built-in chart builder, and this can become this, which is much more polished and refined. And you can also use a bar graph. Also, don't be limited to traditional ways to present data. Charts and graphs are not the only ways to present data effectively. For example, you can do something like this. Speaker-Slides Dissonance. The number 9 cause of death by PowerPoint is mismatched message between what the speaker is saying and what the slide shows. When this happens too often, it makes it so confusing and tiring to keep up with the presentation. This mismatch or dissonance can happen on the word and sentence level or the topic level. Known symptoms: stress, fatigue, confusion, overwhelmedness. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to match and synchronize the speaking and the slide contents. Coherence is extremely important. Frequent split attention. The number 10 cause of death by PowerPoint is the way text and image are placed on a slide. When the audience is supposed to look at both the text and the image, placing them apart like this can cause split attention. With slides like this, the audience will have to go back and forth between the text and the image, and often has to combine them together in their head. Puts too much burden on their brain to go back and forth between the text and the image and combine them mentally. And some people even fail to do so, unfortunately. Known symptoms associated with this are split attention, confusion, and failure to make connections. What I can prescribe for these conditions is to integrate text into image, or place the text and the image close to each other. This will reduce the burden on the audience's brain, audience's cognitive processing. So now you have it. When you make your next PowerPoint presentation, try to avoid these 10 leading causes of death by PowerPoint, and try not to make your audience experience death by PowerPoint.